Hello and welcome to the coronavirus update for the 13th of May 2020, where today we'll be mostly looking at when is the right time to open up, how to do it, and was it actually worth shutting down in the first place. But before I get on to that, I want to briefly look at where we are in the world. We've got about 4 million confirmed cases and about a third of a million dead people from the virus. Now, if you take the ratio of those two, of course, you just get the mortality rate of the virus, which I've been tracking for some considerable time. In fact, I've been tracking it since there was less than 1 million confirmed cases in the world. And for a long time, it went up and up and up. Now it's sort of plateaued, and finally, it's starting to go down again. Now, these, I should stress, are your chance. You've got a 7% chance of dying if you're confirmed of having the virus. But, of course, there are lots of people who get the virus who aren't confirmed as having it. But it does still throw this into a harsh perspective that a lot of people were downplaying it when they were saying it had a mortality rate of 1 to 2%. Which would still be at least 10 times more lethal than the flu. But to get it down to that sort of level, you need 3 to 7 times more infected people than you're actually finding at the moment, which is quite a tall order. Okay, I want to take a look at some other places around the world, most notably Russia, who is absolutely screaming up the tables. It's actually the second most infected country by confirmed cases at the moment. If you take a look at it on the aggregate cases, it's just going boom. And these are, of course, confirmed cases. And as far as I know, Russia, they've decided, we're just going back. They're not. They're not taking much in the way of social distancing to heart, which is another comparison that I wanted to make. Lots of people ask about Sweden and, how does Sweden look? Now, the thing about Sweden, of course, is most of the people live in the south in a few cities, but, everyone else through the rest of the country is sort of naturally socially distanced anyway. But they went more for the herd immunity. And they look kind of, after you've looked at enough of these curves, this looks kind of American. But, so maybe the country to compare it to would be Norway, who, I'm not so sure. I fancy my chances of finding Norway. There we go. So Norway, by comparison, Sweden had 27,000 fatalities. Yeah, it's about 10% death ratio-ish. Norway, by comparison, is much better in almost every way, shape, and form. They're informative numbers. You got to bear in mind that all of these things come with error bars, and you're trying to compare different countries, different healthcare systems, different ways of dealing with social distancing and all that sort of stuff. Another one which I've been following is, how long till America gets. These are the new cases confirmed per day in America, and way back here is when there are about 500 new cases per day, is when America declared a state of emergency. So way back when America had just passed peak, I started following these numbers, and I made this bold prediction as to what America would look like, which I got a load of flack from on YouTube at the time for, people telling me how unscientific I was, and, what a bad scientist I was for putting a straight line through this. Well, the reality is it wasn't just a sheer guess at the time. I've been following quite a lot of these cases for quite a lot of time. And America looked kind of like Italy. And I knew that Italy, once it had peaked, it was going pretty much linearly downwards. So it was a fairly simple thing from there that, well, okay, let's just make the assumption that America's doing the same. And you get a gradient off the first, couple of weeks. And that was all the information I used to basically say, yeah, it's probably not going to be too bad. And all the red data is the data that's come on since. So that's actually not looking too bad. I mean, you're still probably, you're going to be in this sort of region between, to get back to the state of emergency line, which is still about 2 months off. Which brings us on to the next question. What's the best way to open up? And was it actually worth shutting down in the first place? Because, I mean, this is the thing. If you just want to reopen the country for business as normal, there really wasn't any point in shutting down in the first place. There really wasn't. And I'll go through some numbers like that. So we need a new sheet where I was previously calculating the total number of virus particles that you need to infect the entire world, and whether you can fit them on a finger. Spoiler alert, you can. So, world spread rate of the virus is about 1.3, which means that in 3 days-ish, you get about 10 times the number of cases. This, by the way, when I first started looking at this, I just described it how mathematically seemed intuitive to me. Turns out this isn't how all the contagious disease people do their numbers. They would use probably a number of 0.3, or they have the what is it called? An R0 value or something. It's the average number of people one person infects. For me, daily spread rate seemed an intuitive way of looking at all of this. So anyway, so let's start with America in its state of emergency, which is going to be day 0. And to make things easy, I'm going to say there were 300 cases, or 0.3 thousand cases on that day. There weren't. There were about 500, but it doesn't greatly matter. So that means that in 10 days after that, you would have had 300 new cases per day. 3,000 cases per day. In 20 days, you would be up at 30,000 cases per day. So, from state of emergency to 30,000 cases per day should be about 20 days. So we can compare that to the actual data. State of emergency was declared down here somewhere. About there, right. So that's 11th of March. And up to 30,000 cases per day is almost exactly 20 days. Right? So basically, if you get America back down to state of emergency levels, it'll only take you 3 weeks to get back up to where you are now. So how long does it take to get from 30,000 cases per day down to that? Well, those are the numbers that we were just looking at. So from about 30,000 cases per day to get back to normal, I'm going to be generous and call that 3 months. It's actually nearer 4, but we'll call it 3. So it takes 90 days to get back. So 20 days to go up, 90 days to get down. So there's actually, and not only does it take you 90 days to get down, America has also shuffled, how's that, $3 trillion in, $10,000 per American is what it's cost so far, just for the shutdown. So you've got real skin in the game at the moment. And these numbers, by the way, are comparable for most first world countries around the world. There's been a considerable investment in trying to make businesses not go broke. Anyway, so that's how much skin you have in the game at the moment. If you didn't do anything, let's then I don't think you need many more. After, you'd be up to 1/3 million per day. You would be up to 3 million per day and 30 million per day. So for the widespread rate, you go from state of emergency to everyone in the entire country being infected in 2 months. So if America had decided that it was going to go for the herd immunity strategy, it could kind of all be over by now. It would, it'd cost you about 2 million people. You'd have saved $10,000 per American. Well, you'd save $2 trillion. And yeah, that's with the widespread rate. That's if you do absolutely nothing to mitigate this. If you get your spread rate down to 1.05, then you basically keep whatever cases you have at the moment in perpetuity. So if you did that on day 0, you would have 300 cases per day in perpetuity. If you did it at the moment, you would have 30,000 cases per day in perpetuity. Both of those are absolutely chump change when you take a look at the costs of infecting the entire country. So, America looks bad at the moment. But what you got to bear in mind is this is an almost entirely uninfected United States. You've got about 1 million confirmed cases. But let's just put a factor of 2 on it. 3 million confirmed cases. Out of 300 million Americans, 1% of Americans have been infected, right? It can get 100 times worse than it is at the moment, which would only take you 20 days. The problem is that all of this is just essentially treated at the moment. When I look at it in America, it's all for scoring cheap political points. No one seems to be... If you're interested in actually understanding the problem, right? If you get the spread rate down to 0, which is 1 in my case, 2 weeks like that, and in principle, your country's clean, or should be. This is a flat level. Somewhere between these two is where America is likely to end up when it reopens. If you end up with a number something like this, you basically just double all the numbers here. So, you just got to draw the line as to what's the acceptable losses here. And yeah, if you decide that... Right, so let me give you these numbers here. If you went for a 15% spread rate, these basically become all roughly doubled. 80, 100. So 100 days, you use 3 months. Right, you go from a month and a half to 3 months. That's roughly how much extra time you'll get. The death toll basically comes out to be the same. And I see people on Twitter, they want to blame China, and call it the CCP virus. I mean, honestly, I don't know why they don't just call it the communism virus if it makes you feel happier. None of that's going to help you contain the virus here. It really won't. There's only one thing that'll help you contain the virus, and that's getting this number as low as possible. You do that, you get things contained. Which brings us on to, if your population understands that this is something that needs to happen, you have a reasonable chance of keeping a viral spread rate down. If they think that it's just something that the liberal media is creating to keep you frightened and that you should just basically ignore it, then you're going this way. Yeah, it's that simple. I mean, for me, when you understand the problem, it becomes a very simple problem. People have to understand that this number needs to be kept as low as possible. And you don't, if you watch some of the articles on Fox News, that's not going to happen. Anyway, so I think I'll call it quits there for today. Hope you found it useful. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. If you're going to reopen as normal, then you should have never bothered shutting down the country in the first place. Once you've actually put this sort of investment into it, you could as well put your hand into the pickle jar right up to the elbow. Okay, so if you enjoyed that, drop a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.